Here's Johnny, folks. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is our monologue and Q&A first episode, first edition this week. What a nasty week it's going to be too, folks. And I want to start off with some real head knockers. I want to start off, this is the SHTF is the Biden legacy, folks. The Biden legacy is one of shit hitting the fan and all the un-American efforts his cabal is taking. Yes, folks. SHTF was unleashed under President Trump. The efforts of the New World Order, the Davos, the Great Reset crowd, the Bilderberg Group, they have been playing out for decades. But they went live, they went hot, and they're on the gas with the Cerveza bug to bring down Trump, and they took all their efforts, folks, above and beyond rational understanding to get to their man Biden and get him in office, and then push all this commie, fascist, neo-feudal shit all over us. They needed a Biden and a Cumhola in office, folks, so that they could strong-arm them and take no more chances with a president that may try and act independently. Biden owns all of this, folks. The Democrats own all of this. The Illuminati bastards, they own all of what has happened, right? Biden is the one who signs the paper. It's his legacy. The buck stops there, but the world knows he is just a puppet, and hopefully they all get to pay the fiddler as well, and none too soon. I tell you what, folks, I tell you what, if you're new here on YouTube, that was a powerful statement, and we've got a whole lot more. If you're new here on YouTube, subscribe. And that's how that works. Now, I want to thank Mr. T some more, who's been doing some excellent stuff behind the scenes. Before I really dig in my heels and get even nastier, folks, it's not me that's nasty. It's what's happening out there. You know it. I know it. We all know it. It's what's going on out there that is the nasty. It's just we're being forced to take a big old bite of this shit sandwich they made for us. It is. I want to thank Jolene, of course, and Man and Kaz, the whole gang, the R Syndicate, folks, the entire network. We're pulling together. We're bringing in more people all the time, and I need you to keep that up. And I want you to remember the military, because I'm going to say some more about the military. The last video, I talked about the Army football team running out in the field, all of them with American flags. There's a lot more to the military that I want to discuss with you, but first I want to get to this new look at what happened. Goosebumps. This is all giving me goosebumps. It is, everything that's going on is speaking to me very loud, very clear. Folks, Jolene, I think this would make a great short to put out there, but this is very important. And I thought about this today, and I was finally able to put it to words. What is the military to these United States of America? Folks, without the military, comprised of regular people, patriots, Americans, volunteers. That's how it's always been, with very few exceptions. But without the military fighting their asses off and giving their lives to battle the Brits of King George, America would never have gained its freedom. That is why today, freedom and those who love it always look to the military as the last line of defense against tyranny because they saved us before. That is why today, those of us who cherish liberty, we look to our veterans and active duty to see their opinions, to understand their morale as a gauge to what's going on in the world and our country. Biden is destroying the military, and I see that as a primary threat to the defense of these United States. The military members swear an oath to protect our nation from all enemies, folks. If there is no military to protect us, we are in a worse state than when the military is strong. To see our own government, the Biden government, the Democrat government, and all of their puppet masters, these people specifically, right? They're trying to intentionally dismantle our military, and I see it. It appears to me to be an act of war against us, the people. That's how I see their efforts, folks. What do you think? What do you think? Man, I tell you, they see us, the government sees us as a threat, right? Because there's going to be a rally. Americans are putting together a rally about the January 6th protesters who are now in the Washington, D.C. Bastille prison. It's a political prison. Because there's going to be a rally, guess what? The fence around the Capitol is going back up. They feel threatened by us. All we want to do is petition for redress of grievances. That is correct government errors. That's what a redress of grievance is. Correcting government errors. They've made a mistake. They've overstepped their bounds. They violated our rights and our trust. And we want it fixed. It's that simple. Redress of grievances. But does a tyrant back down? No. Tyrants never back down. Tyrants double down. And that is what Nancy Pants, Biden, Upchuck, and the whole lot of them do, is they double down and they dig in like an Alabama tick, and they don't give up. But this is all part of the process, folks. Get ready for more of it. Get ready for more. And just to give you an idea of what hypocrites, liars, and propagandists these people are, the elitist 90-proof Nancy Pelosi was at ground zero. And so were a bunch of other politicians. But I like to pick on her especially because she is a horror story. She is hell on wheels and a nightmare. All of the officials, all of the important government people, all had their masks on. But when they thought the cameras turned off, they all took their masks off and started talking to each other. They're a bunch of lying, hypocrite propagandists. And they care and they don't care. They care and they don't care. But let me show you who does give a fuck. Hundreds of Trump supporters, hundreds of American patriots showed up to greet Joe Biden when he arrived in, of all places, folks, Boise, Idaho. Boise, Idaho is Idaho is incredibly conservative. Boise is the most liberal area, if there is such a thing in Idaho. If there is such a thing in Idaho. It's kind of like talking about Florida and going, well, Miami's kind of liberal. Well, it is just because there's so many Democrats there, but it's still a very conservative place. You don't want to go messing around too much in certain parts of this country. And dumbass Biden showed up in Boise, Idaho, and he was greeted, folks, with hundreds of people yelling, fuck Biden. This isn't the lone lunatic where we're like, ooh, he said fuck Biden. Right? It's not that story anymore, folks. Now it's people looking, making eye contact and saying, fuck Biden. It is no longer the fuck Biden and hope no one sees it's you, but you just want it out there. Now people go, I want you to see me say it. I want you to see me say it. I want you to know who I am and that I'm saying this about you, Joe Biden. It is that world now, folks. We're in that room. We're in that room. Now, I want to bring this up, and I'm moving as quickly as I can. I've got a lot of info that I want to get to with you guys, a lot of info. A lot of info. Who is the real American? Who is the real representative of American people? Governor DeSantis has announced that cities and counties that require employees to get vaxxed will be fined $5,000 per infraction. Is that going to be the county or the city pays the fine, or the individual or the group of individuals that require employees of cities and counties to get vaxxed? How does this work? I don't know specifically, but I do know this, right? DeSantis is not a bad guy in this. And you know that, I know that. He is not telling us what we have to do. See, there's the difference, is the left is trying to make him out to be a bad guy. The mainstream media, they love to hate DeSantis. With Trump only partially visible here and partially visible there, and they go after him when they can. They need a pariah. They need someone to demonize, to dehumanize, someone to attach you, me, our belief systems to, and then put it down, right? It's Governor Abbott or it's Governor DeSantis. It's President Trump when they can get a hold of him. And folks, more people are now calling Trump President Trump again, and putting flags in their yards and putting Trump signs in their yards and stickers on their car and flags on their cars and trucks and motorcycles. It's an effort that is growing organically. That is, we the people are seeing what's going on. Anyways, DeSantis is not telling us what we have to do. He isn't forcing anyone to do anything. What he is doing is he is using government authority to stop government from forcing people to do something they don't want. That's what he's doing with this. But they're going to present it as, well, Governor DeSantis is trying to stop the vaccinations. No, he's not. No. He's saying that people have a right to choose, and that their choice, right, can hurt no one but themselves. That's common sense. If you get the Jim Jones juice, then you should be just fine, right? And if you say, no, I can still get it, then the Jim Jones juice doesn't work. Why did you take it, and why are you trying to force me? It's simple logic and reason, folks. And I tell you what, Uman shares some good stories. Crispy Bacon has shared some great stories with me. A lot of people, you guys have shared your stories with me where you go out and say, well, if you got it and it works, then you have nothing to fear. But if you got it and it doesn't work, then why are you trying to make me take something that doesn't work? It's that simple. It's that simple when you talk about the zombie juice, the hokey pokey, right? Now, back to the violations of Florida law that Democrats want to commit. It comes down to freedom. Free states, free cities, free areas of the country. And who does the government have a right to tell what to do? Well, other government institutions. There's very little government should be telling us to do, but they should be regulating and stopping themselves and fighting crime, et cetera, et cetera. So who is the real American? Is it Biden, who's telling you what you must do and trying to force you and convince you to do something you don't want? Or is the real American someone like Governor Abbott or DeSantis? Let's go over to Texas, if we shall. Let's go over to Texas. They have their heartbeat law. They are not saying it's illegal to get an abortion. They're saying that at some point, there is a living being. And the government's primary role, one of its primary roles, is to make sure that criminal acts, including murder, do not happen. So Texas is not telling you you can't get an abortion. Texas is saying you can't murder a living being. And so up to that point, the heartbeat, you can do what you want. And they are trying to say that he's trying to steal people's rights. And the left, I love listening to this argument that abortions are right. It's right there in the Constitution. Go ahead and use your find search key and look for it in there. Keep trying. I'm sure it'll find it. The word abortion, it's got to be in the Constitution. They certainly found it. But they won't find that you, that you have any rights or protection yourself. Now, Biden, Obama, Clinton, both of them, they pretend to be patriotic. And it's obvious to me that they hate America and they hate you. That's right, you. If they knew you by face or name, if they knew who you were, they would hate you. If they knew anything about you, they would hate you instantly. Folks, they pretend to be patriotic. My evidence that they pretend to be patriotic is they showed up. They showed up at Ground Zero in New York City on the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. They pretended to honor those who died, those policemen, those firefighters. They pretend to honor them. My evidence that they're lying and that they're a bunch of hypocrites and scum is what their academic leftists at the top of the ivory towers say and do. It is, folks, a mirror of the political elite who lie to us only long enough and loud enough to ensure they get elected. Look what is going on with our military, with all of the LGB and anti-Trump and anti-patriot efforts. Those are political decisions being made. And those political decisions, folks, mirror the colleges. Politics and academia at the top are mirror images of each other. Now I move on to the Syracuse professor who defends not America, but those who did 9/11 attacks. And this person, folks, claims it was an attack on hetero-patriarchal capitalistic systems. You're going to love this shit, folks, right? On the 20th anniversary of our 9/11 tragedy, Jen Jackson, a professor at Syracuse University, who by outward appearances, even though she uses some kind of odd pronouns, appears to be a black woman. She tweeted out that 9/11 was an attack on the heteropatriarchal capitalistic systems and went on to add more, folks. Oh, but wait, there's more. A system many white Americans fight to protect, making it a race issue. This is not a race issue. It's a freedom issue. But they want to make it a race issue so they can divide you off, so they can dehumanize, destroy, so that they can then dismantle, right, and get rid of us. So folks, white, black, brown, and all shades of real patriotic Americans are fighting to protect our rights and keep government limited and focused on its duties, and to keep it from destroying our rule of law and institutions that are based on law and order, tradition, culture, the American way. Remember when that was a term, folks? It's the American way. Think about it, the American way. When was the last time someone in government said it's the American way? Which was to be honest, forthright, moral, to stand up, to do what's right. It's the American way. To put your head down, to fight through adversity, to conquer in the name of freedom and liberty for all. That's the American way. The American way. Which in part, folks, the American way is to tell the enemies of freedom to go fuck themselves. The American way. Even that is the American way. You don't pussyfoot around it. You just tell them, go fuck yourself. That's the American way. Just depends on, how colorful the language you want it to be. Now get this, folks. As usual, hey, the Prepared Mind broadcast is international. All the way over to Europe, continental America, down into South America, over into Australia, which is, by the way, not only a country, but a continent, as well as Southeast Asia, parts of China, Africa. We're everywhere, folks. And so all things SHTF matter to us because we care about the world. It's the American way. So Antifa over in Germany has attacked the AfD rally in Hamburg, right? One person's hospitalized. The national election is coming up, folks, in Germany, September 26th. And the far leftist parties are freaking out over the prospect that the patriotic, the AfD is the alternative for Germany. The D is Deutschland, right? Germany is, we say Germany, they say Deutschland, okay? This means Germany. The AfD party, it may maintain its seats in the Bundestag despite 2 years, folks, of police surveillance, government surveillance, nonstop, mainstream, fake news, bullshit slander, and deplatforming of the AfD on mainstream media, big tech media. They're doing all they can to silence anyone who wants freedom. And even this, the AfD, the Alternative for Germany party, what are they about? Wanting their civil rights. I don't think they have God-given rights the way we have in America. I don't think the government ever recognized that. But they have civil rights. They have a constitution and rules, folks. They may not point to God Almighty as the source of it, but they still have rules that the government should and must follow, and they're not. And that created the AfD party, right? The alternative for Germany, not the mainstream, not the status quo, but an alternative. And their alternative is so alternative that they're calling for freedom and liberty. Isn't that amazing that the government in Germany is so hell-bent on becoming one united Europe? Hitler had the same idea, but he tried using tanks and guns and the Luftwaffe, right, to unite Europe. Now they're trying to use the pen. They're trying to use the pen. Politics. Crazy shit, folks. Crazy shit. I wish the AfD in Germany, the biggest hope and prayer that they can maintain their power, maybe even increase it to stop Angela Merkel. Good golly, folks. And I wanted to go over this. I want to thank Leanne. I want to thank Mr. Skylight. I want to thank John Lord. I want to thank everybody. Everybody. And right now, folks, many of you are, as we speak right now, there are preppers from the Prepared Mind Network heading to safe lands, heading to safety, moving away from blue cities and blue states out into the blue country and the South. The red country and the red South. People are leaving. They're leaving, folks. Now, in many other broadcasts, previous talks, I've talked about China. And I've said China, right, is not in good shape. China doesn't get to be the world leader. China is not a pretty picture. It is not the shining light in the city on the hill that the world wants us to believe. Certainly that China wants the world to believe, right? China has the world's manufacturing basic monopoly, apart from a few other countries, Germany being one, but they basically have a stranglehold, if not a monopoly, on the world with regard to manufacturing and distribution. But even with that power, China, it is not immune from economic chaos and disaster caused by their dangerous risks taken with fiscal, monetary, and economic policies. China can crash as hard as the rest of the world. In fact, if Europe, the United States of America, South America, Africa, if they don't buy Chinese shit, then China doesn't get money. They don't get wealth. But here's the deal, folks. I've got a particular news item to share with you regarding China and what's happening there. Just so you understand, this is a universal fucking disaster and nightmare of epic SHTF proportions. Something we've been talking about, right? Evergrande, China Evergrande Group is the largest and most insolvent property developer in China. It is $300 billion in debt. Now, you would say 300 billion, John, we talk about trillions of dollars now. No, this is a investment group. This is just one company in China that has their huevos on the chopping block. Okay. $300 billion used to be the entire United States national budget, United States government national budget. Now I know it's several trillion dollars, but it wasn't too long ago that it was just 300, 400, 500 billion. And that's how much debt this one investment group is in. How many investment groups are in China? Dozens and hundreds, and they're all in debt up to their little Chinese eyeballs. They're all in debt. The same with European, the same with American folks. The world is in big, big trouble. I had an old friend today send me a text, a super secret squirrel message, and said, "Is the United States dollar in big trouble?" And I didn't laugh diabolically. I was like, fuck, what have I been telling you for years now? Yeah, but don't worry. The Federal Reserve, the Treasury, the government is going to do everything it can to extend and kick the fucking can down the road. The United States economy did crash. It crashed in September of the year 2019. And it has been propped up with toothpicks, playing cards, bubble gum, and duct tape ever since. It is a Potemkin economic city, here, there, and everywhere. There's another big one right here I want to go over with you folks. North Korea has test-fired its long-range cruise missiles. This came from IsraelNationalNews.com. A lot of these things aren't covered in the American media, and sometimes they're covered in the American media hours or days later than around the world. So it's great to have contacts, media contacts around the world, and we do our very best here at the Prepared Mind Network to scour the planet and find things, well, from anywhere on the planet, whether it's Germany or North Korea or Israel or fucking Iran. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me as long as the information has value with respect to understanding SHTF. So they're test firing long-range cruise missiles. The reason I wanted to bring this up is, if you remember back during the Obama administration, I believe Bill Clinton was in Hawaii, and there was a supposed missile that was fired at Hawaii, and an alarm was sounded. People were told it's coming, a nuclear attack, right? An atomic threat. It was very, very interesting. A friend of mine was there, a very good friend, someone that I respect a lot. His name is Rick. He's a business owner, and he served in the United States Navy, and he served and had something to do with nuclear ordnance. So he understood time and distance. He understood the effects, right? How many megatons will yield how much? Where do they need to go? And he and his wife went to a ditch in Hawaii and got out of the building, went to a ditch, took cover in a ditch, which is well, part of how they trained us back then. I don't know how they train people now to deal with a nuclear explosion and the resulting radiation and breeze, if we want to call it a nice hot breeze. They thought they were going to die. They called a few people at home and then huddled. Fortunately, and the story never got cleared up, not to my satisfaction. The story never got cleared up that it was either it missed, it malfunctioned, it was intercepted on its way, or it was intercepted before it got to Hawaii. And where did it come from? Was it North Korea? The reason I'm looking at this, folks, they've test fired a long-range cruise missile. Now, whether or not North Korea can launch a cruise missile that can actually hit the target they're looking for, or whether it's going to go off like a scud and just fly in whatever general direction it's pointed in, and it'll stop flying at the point when it runs out of fuel, kind of like a balloon when it runs out of air, you know, it's and then it just falls. I don't know what they got, but to me, this smells like an incredible shakedown, false flag style. They need to threaten Hawaii. They need to threaten, probably more important, folks, if not Oahu, threaten Japan with the potential of a North Korea long-range cruise missile. and we could end up with a false flag of the nuclear kind. And what do you think that would cause? What kind of SHTF fallout? Not just a radioactive fallout, but what kind of SHTF fallout would the world see? Now we have a real emergency. We have World War III being threatened and started. And so now everybody, you must do as the Biden says. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of potentials out here, folks, and none of it makes me happy. Now, I've got a lot more shit here. John Lord sent me some crap on New York City's Mayor de Blasio going full cerveza bug Gestapo. I've got a bunch of shit here, right? Big Marge Taylor Greene, representative out of Georgia. Big Marge went on a rant against weak, moderate rhino Republicans. Good for her. Whew. Firefighters and police officers broke into a cheer, folks. Cheering, screaming, yelling as he made a surprise visit to New York City. There's a real America here, folks. There's a real America, and the mainstream media doesn't want you to see it. They don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to think about real America. They want you to think about Biden's America. They want you to think about Obama's America. They want you to think about the Clintons' America. What America do you think about? Let's do this. Let's get to your questions, right? I've got my 30 minutes in. Now it's your 30 minutes.
Are you ready?
Here we go. Let's see what you guys want to talk about. We've got the Prepared Mother. Last second super chat from last night. This happens frequently, folks. People throw in a super chat donation up into the old super chat bar, and we don't get to it, but I get to it the next day. So we got $5 from Jules Lackney. Says, checking in from the Bayou parishes of Louisiana. Looting and people shooting each other over gas. SHTF for 2 weeks now. I would like to ask you, Jules, to please send reports of this to the Prepared Mind network. Let us know what's going on down there. I have people, folks. We have people, our networks everywhere, and we're not getting enough of this news about what is happening as a result, as a consequence of the hurricane that went through and just fucked everything up. And folks, if you can find charity that will help Louisiana, I would urge you to look into seeing what you can do to help, especially if you are in the general area. That is where I think Americans can do the most good, is when you're in the general area of an emergency. You can offer help, materials, support in a number of different ways. Thank you, Jules. And that's terrible to know that they're continuing, folks, the same way, right? The hurricane came through, big focus on it, then it went away. The media quit talking about it. Then there was a big deal about Arizona and the audits there, and then the media silenced about it again. And then they went over to Afghanistan and distracted people in Afghanistan. When that became a shitstorm they didn't want to deal with anymore, right? Now they're going to focus on something else. Oh, 9/11, right? And we see what a absolute political and just overall failure that the Biden administration is, right? They got off of that. Oh, did I mention that the Biden not only last week, but is coming back this week to tell the United Nations how U.S. mandates are going to, right, affect the world. It's all bad. Thank you very much, Jules. Stay safe, stay prepared, stay alert. You know. All right, we got Sally Sue checking in. Sally, I hope everything is good down where you're at. Says, SCOTUS, that's the Supreme Court of the United States, will soon be hearing a case that challenges Roe versus Wade. If it is overturned, will this give the government the authority for these juice mandates? Well, Roe v. Wade has a little more to do about abortion rights than it does authority over the Jim Jones juice mandates. But maybe you're asking, if they're going to find something in this new case that grants special authority or recognizes special authority in the government to grant extra constitutional power and, shall we say, latitude to move the rules left or right as they see fit. That is indeed the biggest threat now with the judiciary. It's the biggest threat with the judiciary now. They could tell us something that we think is good news, and it turns out to be absolutely bad news. I don't know where they're going. I just know that they've got their heads up their asses. Right? We have some landmark Supreme Court and other federal district court decisions with regard to the Second Amendment. They have not gotten anywhere with the Second Amendment destruction over the last 20 years. Since the Clintons left office, the courts have somehow managed to read the Second Amendment at the state and federal level and go, I guess we're going to have to leave the people alone. It is not only a collective right, it's an individual right. Now, I have a funny feeling that, yeah, they definitely want to get into these Jim Jones juice moments. They want to say something about it. The Supreme Court, though, sadly, in my opinion, is absolutely failed us as a nation since, I don't know, the end of 2020, as well as our elected politicians in the legislature, as well as the vice president, formerly known as Pence, failing to uphold their obligations and see with absolute clarity the Constitution and its mandates. Yeah, we're in big trouble. Keep a sharp eye. Let's move on if we shall. We've got Sue F again. It's a question, though, on bulk bean storage. It says, Mylar bags don't fit neatly into the buckets. Is it smarter to store them loose in the bucket? My recommendation is to put the bag in the bucket, fill it with as many beans as you can, and then seal them in the bucket so it kind of fits. Because once you get them in the bag and then you try putting them in the bucket, they don't really stack or fit real well. You know, it's just when you do the vacuum seal and all that, it's a trick. And the question, does John feel that you can put beans or rice or any other raw, dried vegetable or food product inside a bucket and seal the bucket and then have that be safe? My answer for me is yes, having that food is better than no food. And I'll go a step further. When you make beans, at least the way I was taught to make beans is you take them and they've got dirt and rocks and pebbles and shit. Folks, don't forget to you pour your beans out on the counter, on a towel, and you look for rocks. The last thing you want is to think you're going to get a nice big mouthful of semi-firm beans and get a rock. Kind of hurts, gets your attention. Anyways, back to the beans. You soak them in water and then you pour the water off. And when you do that, any plastics or dirt or anything else gets washed away. The bean has a very hard outer surface. So yeah, I think you can store the beans in the plastic. Is it the best scenario? I don't know. Mylar bag. Mylar is a type of plastic, right? Once again, it's plastic. You're going to rinse the beans off. Same with rice. I have no problem, folks, taking rice and putting it in a container, covering it in water, shaking it a bunch, and rinsing it off. Just as a matter of good practice. What makes you think the rice dryer? Well, let me start with the rice farmer. The rice farmer stores it in his silos. And there's mice and rats and shit, and they do the best they can to keep them out of there. That doesn't mean it's a perfect world. There could be some Wuhan bats in there too, for all we know. So I like to rinse rice off and then cook it really well, right, and sterilize it that way. So the answer is yes. Store them loose in a bucket if you have to. If you can take more better means to protect it. You know, maybe you want to have 2 or 3 bags, small bags, 5-pound bags, 10-pound bags, 2-pound bags of rice or beans or whatever you have, and they're all stacked in there. The more you do to protect your food, the better. Now, where the bucket is, I think a much better idea than to have the Mylar bag out is, again, vermin, rats and mice understand and smell the food, folks, on the outside of the bag. And so they'll chew through bags. In fact, when I was a kid in the town of Campbell, which is right next to Los Gatos, rats would chew through people's walls, burrow through walls into their pantries. And my next door neighbor, Eric, he came over and said, "Hey, John," my friend Eric, he says, "I want you to come look at this." And I was like, "What?" And he showed me a fucking hole in the wall. Well, then it looked this big, but I was just in 3rd grade. So it's probably a hole about 2.5 inches across. And their canned goods on the shelves had been chewed through by rats. Rats, folks. All right, let's move on if we can. Nothing like good food stories and prepping. Do your best to secure your food, protect your food from moisture, vermin, pests, insects, and pesky Democrats. All right, we got Todd and Prepared. Hey, dudes, what's happening? He says, any thoughts, John, on what happened or on what's happening over in China, meaning the financial situation? I did cover it in the main section of, or the primary, the monologue section, first half an hour. China's in big, big, big trouble, folks. Now, we hear over here in the United States about our problems. Auto parts, truck parts, tractor parts, any repair, replacement parts for stuff. Right? It's getting hard to find. China has a stranglehold, literally, on shipping. And so they're intentionally putting it to the world. But in China, folks, and right now my access to news from inside China is somewhat limited, or I should say somewhat more limited than usual. I'm not getting all the news out of China that I like. So any of you that are in China that are still able to find the Prepared Mind Network, I would like to hear more from you again. I don't know if it's allowed and if they're bottling it down. The Chinese economy is in big, big trouble. They want to introduce their currency, the yuan, as the world reserve currency. China, Russia, and many other countries are getting rid of their U.S. bonds. You see, that's how our government gets financed. The United States government out of Washington, D.C., that very small piece of dirt, that stinkhole of a swamp called Washington, D.C., gets funding for its activities by selling bonds. Well, China is unbonding, debonding itself, un-T-billing itself. Same with Russia and many other countries, because the US dollar is becoming worth less. It's becoming worth less. The United States is in the act right now of manipulating the value of the dollar. It is becoming worth less, which makes other currencies really strong, and it kind of messes with trade, causes trade balance issues. The United States government loves to accuse other governments of manipulating the value of their currency. What's the United States government, the Treasury, and the Federal Reserve doing right now? They're printing to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. What is it, every month? Hundreds of billions of dollars to buy mortgage-backed securities. In other words, to prop up the real estate market, to fund Wall Street and finance companies that are failing because the economy is incredibly weak. Folks, I mean, think about it. If people don't go back to work, and businesses have failed everywhere, just failed like a motherfucker because of cerveza bug, the mandatory shutdowns, lockdowns, reductions in how many people you can have in a restaurant. Folks, they put 30 seats or 30 tables in a restaurant because they need 30 fucking tables to make their bill at the end of the month. If they can only put in 10 or 15 tables worth of customers, they're not going to be able to pay their bills. They're going out of business. There's so many sectors of the U.S. economy that have gone to shit, that our economy is failing. So how is it that the lights are on, right? I've got a tin roof over my head. Why? Because they're floating it. They're printing cash, manipulating the currency. Folks, have no fear. China's doing the same exact thing. They don't want the US dollar devaluing itself, so they devalue theirs. We're having economic problems, so are they. So is Europe. Everyone is coming down, folks. Inflation is the indicator that the dollar is worth not more, but less. The cost of goods goes up. The cost of services goes up, meaning it takes more dollars. So those dollars are less valuable. All right, let's move on up again. We got Rick O'Connell. He says, Biden has signaled he plans to sign the UN gun registration treaty. Is this a giant step towards confiscation? What are your thoughts on this? Well, there is a problem, in my opinion, with the United States Constitution and treaty law. Treaty law has to be signed by the president, and I believe has to be signed by a supermajority of the United States Senate in order for it to become part of our laws. Now, with regard to the Second Amendment, this is a giant step towards them saying, well, the UN gun law says they want everyone to register their guns. Well, the UN now, through this same treaty, says they want to eliminate guns. Or they could come up with another treaty, eliminate guns. Well, let's start with the most dangerous ones, those that are made of black plastic. If it's got black plastic, that's dangerous. They want to get rid of the guns. The United Nations is anti-gun. America, the United States of America, is pro-gun. We have our Second Amendment. So if the United Nations are a bunch of leftist assholes that hate guns, they're the opposite of what the American way is. The American way is more guns, more ammunition. So if our guns and ammunition is what protects the United States of America and ensures and guarantees the American way, then it's easy for me to see the United Nations as an anti-American institution. And if the president and the U.S. Senate want to join with an anti-American institution that wants to take our fundamental rights and say, no, they're mere privileges that we can steal from you, to me, that's an act of treason. To me, it's an act of war. It is an act that is violent because it takes violence in order to enforce. This is America. Fuck the United Nations. This is where we're at, folks, where I can just come right out and say it now. I don't have to be clever and come up with a pamphlet or a book. I don't have to hold a 3-hour seminar to explain how fucked up the United Nations is. I can point to one thing. They're anti-gun. I can point to our Constitution. It's pro-gun. If the United Nations is anti-gun and the Constitution is pro-gun, then the United Nations is clearly the enemy of the United States. Fuck them. Simple math, folks. Simple philosophy. Common sense, logic. Just a tiny bit of critical thinking works every fucking time you try it. Let's move on. Dangerous Freedom has a statement. And he says, I hear Gigi Biden is going in front of the United Nations this week to talk about the mandates. My thoughts. Well, I've got some thoughts, as you guys know. And I really wanted to let you guys know how I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate everything you do for us here on the Prepared Mind Network. And the R Syndicate is also critical, folks. The rsyndicate.com. It really is, folks, that important to have all of these contacts in the world of prepping to get prepared. I'm going to get to your statement here, my thoughts on your statement, Dangerous, right after this. Okay, folks, the rsyndicate.com. That is really a great clearinghouse for information. Now, on to Dangerous Freedom's statements about the mandates. Around the world right now, everyone's doing their own thing, no matter where they're at around the world. Every country is doing their own version of mandates or masks or social distancing or rules. Now, just this weekend, as our good friend over there in jolly old England, Steve Conlon, said, and it wasn't just him saying it, it's also in all of the media sources, England has said, we're not going to have any cerveza bug passports. The story is falling apart, folks. How this whole thing works, how dangerous it is, how deadly it is. What is the best course of action to take? Are we anywhere near herd immunity? How many people have really gotten the Jim Jones juice? A lot of questions, and it's starting to crumble and fall apart. But those who love the Georgia Guidestones, those beautiful, wacky Bilderberg types, oh, they're such silly guys. Those assholes, folks, they have an agenda that they want carried out. And it, for some reason, has everything to do with these mandates. They want zombies, folks. They want zombie sheep out there who obey everything and bleat. They all sound the same, just like a herd of sheep. They don't know nothing. Sheep. They want everyone dumbed down. They want everyone to turn into a zombie. They want everyone reliant on the word of government to come out about what to do with cerveza bug. It's so deadly and crazy. It is pure insanity, folks. So what is Biden doing with the UN? He's going to try and once again uniformly create a structure where information comes from one source, like Dr. Doom, and everyone should obey that. Everyone underneath this top-down, centrally managed, dictated narrative or agenda about cerveza bug. They want that, folks. They want that. And it's falling apart. And so Biden going in front of the UN is an attempt, another attempt to say, hey, look what the USA is doing. It's actually not the United States of America. It's the US government and what they want. What is their agenda and who are their masters, by the way? Let's, if we can, move on. We're closing in on the hour, folks. It's amazing. It feels like I've been here for 5 minutes. I've been here for 50 minutes. All right. We got David. He said, is communism inevitable? Are we dinosaurs destined for extinction? We have many factors to this, and it is a great question. Is communism inevitable? No, it is not inevitable. Socialism is not inevitable. Human ignorance and stupidity is immortal. You can kill it off, folks. They can kill themselves off. They can Darwin award themselves right off a cliff like fucking lemmings. Now, the people with a brain who are left, what are they doing? Oh, they're going to look around and go, okay, it's just us again, right? All the idiots just killed themselves. Well, they go, well, okay, I guess we're going to start making more babies again because that's what we do. And every now and then you get a retarded baby and they turn into Democrats, communists. And after a while, they reproduce and they reproduce more until they get some power. Then they start controlling the education system and reproduce more. They start controlling the government and they reproduce more. Pretty soon, we've got what we have today. Essentially a country that is 50-50. 50% people who think and are normal and say, leave me the fuck alone. And the other 50% are communism, good. We love socialism. Government should be able to tell us what to do. It's like, where did you fucking morons come from? And then they'll kill themselves off again. A lot of people believe, folks, that the zombie juice is going to do just that. It won't kill them off 100%. It's hard to get rid of them. A lot of these little communist rats will go back under the rocks, back into the hollow logs, under the slimy toadstools where they used to hide and keep their mouths shut. Right now, what do they want, though? They want your death. They want you in a relocation, re-education, reimagination, right? Reprogramming camp to fix you or just kill you outright. It is becoming on a daily, it's daily that they want to kill us. Daily. All right, we got Dennis Chandler. He said, did you hear about Justin Trudeau getting hit with rocks by Jim Jones juice protesters? No, I did not. I did not hear that the little twerp, the little Canuck, the little Canadian Prime Minister, I did not hear that he was hit with rocks. And I certainly didn't hear that it was by those who oppose his mandates. That's right, folks. Canada wants to be like Australia. They don't want to be like the United States. They want to be like Australia. They want to lock everyone down and scare them to death and fine them and arrest them. They have the same problem, folks. Mandates are not lawful. Just because someone with the presumption and appearance or color of authority in government, just because they appear, stand in front of a microphone, have someone, folks, this is the speaker with the most authority, so I want you to believe that I can tell you what to do and you must obey. Is anyone hearing this? And then a rock comes in and knocks them out, Yeah, people are getting violent. And this is something I've talked about for some time. It doesn't surprise me. And I don't promote, incite, encourage, or glamorize violence against little turds like Trudeau. But understand this. There is a natural order to things. Just as we talk about divide, take the people you don't like, dehumanize and demonize them, then separate them and destroy them, kill them. First, folks, tyrannical government starts its shit. The first thing people do is protest. Then those same people, when their protest is not heeded and the government continues its tyranny, then they refuse to comply. And ultimately, folks, the government becomes violent and says, we're going to do things to you that you don't like. We're going to put you in jail. We're going to steal your property. We're going to fine you. We're going to ruin your job and your business. We're going to capture you, tackle you, and we're going to inject you. That is going to result in a response. And the response always is a violent response because protest didn't work. Nonviolent, non-confrontational, non-compliance didn't work. That leaves violence. That's the order. So it's happening, folks. We're getting closer and closer and closer to SHTF, El Nasty, aka Mad Max. All right, we got Sue F, and there are two Sues. Oh, please forgive me. There's many Sues out there. Also, do we think Larry Elder has a chance in California? The answer is yes. I did read an article that said Larry Elder is going to win California, but he's not going to be the governor because of all of the fraud that's going to happen. I don't know that fraud's going to happen. I know that it's possible. I'm not going to predict that fraud is going to happen, but I would say it's possible. I don't want it to happen, folks, but it's possible. Larry Elder is very much a statesman and an intelligent thinker. And because of that, there's a chance he can win. He can convince enough Americans. He is also black. Now, is that a career enhancer? For me, no. I don't give a shit what color you are. I don't. I couldn't care less. But to a bunch of woke fuckheads, like all of the Democrats in California. Now, the Republicans, regardless, again, of color, are going to vote for someone who is going to give them the least amount of trouble and ensure the most amount of freedom. They'll vote for Larry Elder because he's a Republican. There's a lot of woke Democrats that are pissed off at Governor Newsom and are just smart enough to vote and just dumb enough to not check and see how conservative Larry Elders is. I think there's a chance. I don't think California is aware of the potential, shall we say, the potential good things that could happen if Larry Elder is elected and put in office. Now we got Orlando checking in, and we're at the 1 hour mark, folks. And I know it's Monday. We came off an amazing weekend of shit, had a great Sunday Night Live at the zoo, and then Monday we usually get socked in with questions also. He says, hey, just wanted to say Semper Fi and get your asses ready, because Potato Joe, that's Gigi Biden, Potato Joe is cornering us. And well, you know what happens when we all get cornered. Godspeed to us all. Keep up the good work, John. Thank you, Orlando. Semper Fi to you, brother. Woo! We used to have a guy with the last name Cortez who was part of the Prepared Mind Network. I believe he lived in the Tampa area and had something to do with computers. I would like Mr. Cortez to get a hold of me again. It's been a long time since I've heard from him. We got Robert Alfred. Uh-oh, that just got taken down there, Jolene. Robert Alfred. Or I guess I'm gonna have to address Chris. Chris says, while the news is bad, the effects aren't in many places. And let's face it, city people generally know balls or agree with it, and country people aren't stepping in for them. That's an interesting statement. People in cities, I wouldn't say they have no balls. I would just say that the number of conservatives or libertarian constitutional freedom lovers, there's not as many percentage-wise. And they're not, and those people aren't going to step up and help the Democrats. And certainly the country folks, the rural folks, where the tables are really flipped, where there's a lot more pro-Constitution out in the rural areas, they're not going to go into the cities. Number one, they don't like Democrats. Number two, they don't like that Democrat cities have ruined many states and have overrun the rural types. Number three, country folks, you folks, country folks, don't typically understand all of the issues that city folks have to deal with. They basically despise the cities, and when they go into cities, and folks, I go into the cities every now and then, you see all the trouble they're going to have. You see all the stupid. I believe that cities are a much more dangerous place in Mad Max. At the same time, cities afford us a lot of opportunity to make some drastic changes. In other words, there's veterans out there who specialized in urban combat, door to door, house to house, neighborhood to neighborhood. There's people that got really good at that, as well as the Marines and Army that also excelled at rural. How do I put this? Calming the nerves of rural problems. I'll move on though. Robert Alfred says, lost my day job last month due to sickness. Would you concentrate what little money we've got coming in on my garden, my chickens, freedom seeds, or storable food? I don't know what area of the country you're in, Robert, but what I can say is all of those things are important. Now, you have a little bit of money. So what I can say is that gardens don't cost much. You have the price of the seeds, cost of the water, the labor involved in watering a garden. It is a very expensive way to create what I like to call sustainable sustenance. Sustainable sustenance. Remember that thought. Food, plant, tomatoes, squashes, and I like winter squashes, beech nut, squashes, butternut, spaghetti squash, name your squashes. They last a long time. There's a lot of calories there, a lot of carbs, a lot of fiber in your squash family. Anyways, they're inexpensive, relatively inexpensive. I recommend keeping that. Now, chickens. Now, chickens, if you do free-range chickens, they'll go out and they'll live on grass and other vegetation, as well as finding bugs and eating all the bugs, which does a lot of good for you. Chickens can also eat your table scraps, stuff that you find to be unpalatable. Anything that's wasted can be thrown to the chickens. So chickens can be, depending on the area, and now in the winter in very cold areas where everything's frozen, not a lot of bugs or grass for chickens to eat. If you're in the south or warmer climate that has vegetation and bugs year round, your chickens will do better. And chickens produce eggs. Okay, everyone knows that eggs are protein. That's very good, a great source of protein. And so then you can also have those eggs hatch, right? And you've got fryers and more hens, right? You eat the little fryers unless you want more roosters around, but I'm not a big fan of roosters. As you guys know, certain roosters pose, especially the one, that big mofo, posed me a great threat in the old RMZ. I miss the RMZ. I miss America more, and that's why I'm here. Okay, back to the question at hand. Where did all his stuff go? You took it down, Jolene. Anyways, if you've got the right climate for chickens, they can be very inexpensive to have and take care of. Now, when it comes to freedom seeds, the way I look at freedom seeds, folks, is the bad guys, whoever in the process of having conflict. In the process of having conflict, the losers tend to drop their weapons, and so there's going to be lots more ammo coming. The losers tend to drop their weapons, and so you get weapons and ammunition. Okay, so there is a ready source. You don't have to have 10,000 rounds of 223 or 5.56 ammo or 7.62. You don't have to have 10,000 rounds. The reason I have the most common calibers in my collection of toys is because of the very fact that they are the most popular calibers, and people will be dropping theirs and running away if they can still run. And so I'll have a steady supply and stream of replacement. So have what you consider to be the minimum necessary. And if you've exceeded that, then wonderful. But have the minimum number of freedom seeds. The other thing is I know a lot of preppers, and they have lots of seeds, and they will distribute their seeds to their friends so that they too can plant. They'll distribute the seeds to people in the community who are good, because they want everyone to be able to plant all the freedom seeds they can. And then finally, storable food. I do like the idea of storable food. It is very inexpensive. If you're just talking about carbohydrates, rice, beans, good source of protein, good source of carbohydrates, energy, starches. They come in bulk. They're very inexpensive. You can store them very easily in buckets. But meat is the big trick. Animal protein is the big trick. We're omnivores. We need chicken, beef, pork, fish. If you can get fish, you need that stuff. We need that stuff. So that is probably the biggest challenge, especially if you're dealing with money. So there are still some very inexpensive options out there, and they're mostly along the lines of pork. And I'll say things like Spam, right? You can get canned hams. They store for years and years and years in a can, and they're relatively inexpensive. So do your very best to get high quality food. Make sure you have high quality freedom seeds. If you can do chickens, that's great. Everything else. But folks, that's going to end it. It's going to wrap it up for today at the Prepared Mind Network. And I'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow. Lots to talk about. Lots to do. Lots to prepare for, folks. And hey, chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Semper Fi. Godspeed.